2, 1.
So in the main event of UFC 242, Khabib Nurmagomedov was able to defeat Dustin Poirier by rear naked choke in the third round. As far as how I want to break this down, I'm actually going to break it down from the aspect of how Dustin Poirier dealt with Khabib. I think Khabib oftentimes does a lot of the same things over and over. So what I break down from Khabib would be fairly similar to what he does in a lot of other fights. I think it's more interesting to look at how his opponents try to tackle the problem that he is and what they do. And what I found interesting about this fight is that Dustin decided that if he is going to get taken down, that he is going to approach it as though it is a folk-style wrestling match rather than a jiu-jitsu fight. So that would mean that once you get taken down by Khabib, rather than trying to play butterfly guard, rather than trying to submit him off your back, Dustin would try to turn his back, build up his base on all fours, strip the hands, then escape. That wasn't terribly successful for him, but as far as whether or not that was a good strategy or not, I think you can take it a couple ways. So one way would be that in trying to get back to his feet, it's a purely defensive way to look at things rather than saying, hey, look, I'm a black belt. I'm going to try to play guard and try to attack him off my back and tire him out that way. But if you think about it, this is a fight that's going on in an arena that is effectively feels like it's 120 degrees. If you are trying to submit someone who's extremely sweaty, that is very difficult. If you are trying to hold someone down who's very sweaty, that is very difficult. So in playing the role of the guy who's trying to get away, Dustin's giving Khabib a very difficult challenge to deal with. Now, granted, Khabib is excellent at that, and he was able to be successful at it. But that's what Dustin was doing. Another thing that is worth noting with that strategy, though, as I mentioned in a video previous to this, though Khabib is good at getting to very strong positions like the back or like mount, he oftentimes doesn't finish when he gets there. He'll eventually get his finish, but it's not as though if he mounts you with 3 minutes left that you're screwed, or if he gets your back with 3 minutes left, you're screwed. Oftentimes, especially early, fighters do get away, and we saw that happen in this fight. So Khabib did get the back on Dustin Poirier in the first round. I think he even got the back on him in the second round. Dustin was able to get away both times. I think there might have been a few more times as well. I'll have to rewatch the fight and look at how many exact times Dustin Poirier got out of a really bad spot. But Poirier was able to get out of those bad spots. But the first round was very dominant for Khabib. I'd say a 10-8 round is fair to give him there. In the second round, Khabib came out really strong, landed some big punches. Or Dustin came out really strong, landed some big punches. Looked like Khabib might have been a little bit hurt. Not that he ever really got stumbled or anything, but he was definitely moving back and trying to get away from Dustin after Dustin landed some big shots. But Khabib was able to take him down again. And then from there, kind of that similar position where Dustin was trying to build his base up. Khabib was constantly taking him down. Third round came. Khabib went in for a takedown. Dustin looked to defend with a guillotine. Had it very tight. And from what Dustin said in the post-fight conference, he felt like his biggest mistake in that guillotine was trying to finish it by going shin across and then one leg over the top, rather than just fully closing his guard. I mean, that's his opinion on it. I don't know that's a wrong opinion from my standpoint when I was watching it. The biggest mistake that I saw Dustin make is that when Khabib did attempt to roll out of it to escape, there was an opportunity there for Dustin to come up and top a mount. And when you come up and top a mount on a guillotine, you can still finish from there. But even if you don't finish, you end up in a very dominant position. So to me, when I saw Khabib roll with the choke still in, I was thinking that Dustin would take mount from there. And again, if you finish from mount, awesome. If you don't finish from mount, well, then you've got Khabib mounted. And one of the things that really interests me with Khabib is that he's a great wrestler who hasn't really fought like an extremely high-level wrestler quite yet. And one of the questions I always have is what happens if he fights a wrestler who's better than him or someone who's going to put him on his back? How is he going to handle those positions? And this was a real opportunity for him not only to be put on his back, but for him to be put in bottom of mount and to see how he handles it from there. But rather than coming up, Dustin tried to finish it off his back still. And in that roll attempt, Khabib was able to loosen up enough and then get out. And then from there, Dustin then went back on all fours trying to build his base back up. In the process, gave up his back. While his back was given up, Khabib was hand fighting, was able to slip a hand underneath the chin and then finish the rear naked choke. One of the things I saw online from a lot of people, Ben Askren included, was this idea that Dustin had given up. I don't buy that at all. There is a fairly common thing in MMA where a fighter will effectively give up, and in giving up, they're just giving their opponent a free access to a rear naked choke. The opponent takes it, okay, I tapped, and then you can say afterwards, no, I didn't quit. He just caught me in a good submission. There's an argument to me made that that's what happened with Conor. I would not make that argument with Dustin. To me, Dustin was just looking to defend the same way he was defending early on as he was later on. Khabib was able to slip the choke in really quickly, had a really tight squeeze on it. To me, I didn't take that as Dustin giving up a rear naked choke. I took that as Khabib doing a very good job of taking a rear naked choke. So no harm, no foul as far as Dustin's concerned. I don't see how you can look at Dustin as a quitter in this fight. I don't see how you can say that he quit in this fight. As far as the other argument of, well, if you're tapping, are you quitting? Let's look at it this way. If you are caught in a rear naked choke, there are two things that are going to happen. The first thing that's going to happen, the first option would be you get caught in that rear naked choke, you decide not to tap, you go unconscious, and you lose. The second option is you get caught in the rear naked choke, you decide to tap, and then you lose. In both cases, you lose. The only difference is that in the first one, you go unconscious, which is obviously bad for your health. And the second one, you do not go unconscious. But either way, you still lose. So to be caught in a position that you know you're not getting out of, and then to tap rather than just go completely unconscious, to me, no problem with it at all. I have no issue with it at all. To call someone a quitter for tapping out, I don't buy that at all. It's not a smart way to think about things. It's tough. Like I do a lot of jiu-jitsu. To me, I take no shame in tapping out. If I get caught in a tight submission, I don't feel as though my opponent should feel any shame when they tap out to me if I catch them in something. I think most fighters feel that way. There are some fighters who will publicly say, "Oh no, if you tap, you're a bitch," but I don't have any issue with Dustin Poirier tapping out there. So to me, very impressed with Khabib being able to control him. It was interesting to see Dustin try to play that folk style game to try to defend it. It is worth mentioning that I believe the final strike count on the ground was 11 for Khabib over 3 rounds. The final strike count in total, I think, was like 59 for Khabib in 3 rounds. So in doing what Dustin did, he really didn't take a ton of punishment from punches on the ground. So maybe that could be another upside to making it a grappling match rather than getting caught on the bottom and having Khabib just kind of posture up quickly, land a few shots, tie up your legs, land a few shots. So maybe that played into played into his strategy as well. But either way, tough performance from Poirier. Had his moments in the early in the second round. Got very close to finishing a guillotine in the third. So I take nothing away from him here, either from a strategic standpoint or from a standpoint of him fighting to the bitter end there. I think he gave an honest effort out there, and I have no issue with that. So then the next question becomes, who does Khabib fight next? I think it's pretty obvious that it should be Ferguson. Conor McGregor is calling him out right now. I have absolutely no interest in the Conor McGregor fight. I don't see how Conor is going to look any better in the next fight than he did in his last. Tony Ferguson is much more interesting. As I mentioned before, Khabib is one of those guys who, when he gets you down early, oftentimes, even if he gets in a great position, he doesn't always finish from there. So if he's able to get Tony in the positions that he got Dustin in, I don't know that I see him finishing Tony. Tony is known for his great cardio. That could also be an issue later in the fight, so that is interesting to me. Tony's also a better wrestler than Dustin Poirier is, so he may be more difficult to take down. Also, fairly one to fight off of his back and has submissions off of his back, so that'll be interesting. I don't think that if Khabib takes Tony down, that Tony's going to try to build his base back up and try to strip their hands. I think he'll actually try to play guard and have some attacks from there. It'll be interesting to see how Khabib deals with that. So to me, Khabib versus Tony is a fight that we wanted to see for a while. This fight I don't know that it makes it a whole lot more interesting than it already was, because it was already extremely interesting, but that's definitely a fight I want to see right now. I have no interest in the Conor fight. I hope they don't make the Conor fight. What Dana White was saying after the fact is that he is aiming for Tony, but if Tony doesn't accept it the date that they're looking for, then they would look other ways, and Conor is a way that he's considering. I don't think that he's considering the Conor fight, but what can you do? The one positive to get out of this weekend, though, regarding Conor, though, if you don't want to see Conor versus Khabib next, which is where I'm at, is that in making the main event for MSG, Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal, what you are doing is you are making a main event a non-title fight. And not only are you making a main event a non-title fight, but you're making a main event at MSG, which is supposed to be a really big show, a non-title fight. One of the big holdups that's been an issue with Conor is that they haven't wanted to put him in a main event in a non-title fight. They are now setting the precedent that they will make non-title fights main events with this Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal fight. So what that means is that Conor McGregor doesn't have to fight for the title in his next fight. You can put him in there against someone who isn't going for a belt. And with this precedent set, I think there's a good reason to believe that that's what they'll do next. So hopefully Conor gets some main event next that isn't for the title, it isn't against Dustin Poirier. We get to see Khabib versus Tony finally. And man, is that going to be a great fight? So let's hope that's what we get. But either way, great showing from Khabib. Tough showing from Poirier. Really good fight all around.